Hey boys and girls, this is lesson 3.9, modeling decimals with base 10 blocks. So at the end of this, you should be able to discuss fractional parts of a dollar, represent hundredths with base 10 blocks, and evaluate the relationship between shaded parts of square grids and decimal representations. So make sure you have this all written in your notebook, and let's go on. So here's a math message for you. Write the following amounts using a dollar sign and a decimal point. So that number one, $3, 5 dimes, and 1 penny. What would that look like written as dollars and cents? And then how about 2 3 dimes and 6 pennies? And 3 $2 bills and 7 dimes? And 4 9 pennies. What do those look like with a dollar sign and a decimal point? You can't just give me the cent sign afterwards. That's not what we're looking for in 4th grade. So see what you can do with that. Pause this and then come back and check it. Okay, so here you see that for $3 bills, we've got a 3 right here, 5 dimes, and 1 penny. $3 and 51 cents. That's how you would say that. Then the next one, 3 dimes and 6 pennies. 3 dimes and 6 pennies is 36 cents. So even though you write the dollar sign the way you have it, this is perfectly right, you would say that 36 cents. You wouldn't say $0 and 36 cents, right? Not necessarily. And then $2.70, because it's $2 bills and 7 dimes. And here's 9 pennies, just the pennies. All right. Hopefully you did okay on that. That's going to help you as we go forward in this lesson. So I want you to think about this. The whole is $1. So with the whole being $1, think about this. How many dimes are in a dollar? How many dimes? Got that in your notebook? How many dimes are in a dollar? Hopefully you would say there are 10 dimes in a dollar. So what fraction of a dollar is 1 dime? Think about that. Hopefully you would figure out it's 1/10. One of them out of the 10 that it would take to make up the whole dollar. So 1/10. And then how about this? How many pennies in $1? Hopefully you know that there are 100 pennies. So if there's 100 pennies in $1, what fraction of a dollar is 1 penny? Hopefully you know it's 1/100th. Right? All right. Good. And there it is again for you. So here's what I really want to point out to you on this slide. The first digit to the right of the decimal point stands for dimes, or tenths of a dollar, and the second digit stands for pennies, or hundredths of a dollar. So let's do something with that right here. So let's say we have $1.65. That being said, this 6 is going to stand for dimes. So I would have 6 dimes, and this 5 is going to stand for how many pennies, or hundredths of a dollar I have. That goes perfectly well with what's written right here. Hopefully this all connects for you. I should go ahead and put my dollar sign there, shouldn't I? Okay, there you go. Okay, moving on. So let's take a look now at base 10 blocks, because we can use those just like we were using the fraction circle pieces before, and then dimes can be used as well to model tenths. So keep that in mind. So here's the base 10 blocks. So using these, how many longs would you need to cover the whole grid? How many longs would it take to cover that whole grid? That flat is what the whole grid is, right? The flat. How many would that take? Hopefully you would see that it would be 10. So if that's the case, what fraction of the grid is 1 long? Hopefully you would say it's 1 out of the 10 it would take to cover the whole thing. That being said, make sure you get 1/10, written like this, is the same as this, 1/10, and it's the same as this, 1/10. So I can write 1/10 any of these ways. It all means the same thing. Make sure that is in your notes. You want to be sure you get that. So if you do get that, let's look down here. So 0.2 then would need how many longs to represent it? So we'll use this to help you if you need it. So how many longs would it take to represent that? Hopefully you would see it's 2. So if it's going to take 2 longs, what fraction of the grid would that be? Hopefully you'd say, well, it would be 2 out of the 10. So 2/10. 2/10 written 0.2 or written 2/10. Right? Okay, then let's look at hundredths. So base 10 blocks, like pennies, can be used to model hundredths. So now we're talking about that little cube. So the little baby cube, how many of those would it take to cover the flat? Think about that. How many would it take? Let's see, if it takes me 10 longs, and there's 10 cubes in a long. Hopefully you can do that math, and you would end up with telling me that it's 100. It's 100 cubes. Ooh, 0 is tough to read, but 100 is what that's telling you. And then if that's the case, then what fraction of the flat is 1 cube? Similar to 1 penny. 1/100th. So then notice this. 100th, look where that's positioned in the pennies place, right? In the pennies, 100th is the same as 1 over 100, 100th, and also 100th. These are equivalent. Make sure you have that in your notes. So with all of that being said, look at this question down here. So how many cubes would it take to represent this on your grid or on the flat? How many? Hopefully you would say, well, it would take me 5. And if so, you would be right. So then what fraction of the flat is 5 cubes? Hopefully you'd be able to tell me, like 5 pennies would be 5/100ths, which I could also, again, remember, write this way. 5/100ths, 5/100ths. DTHS, right? Hundredths. Okay, so then how would you represent, it's a little bit tougher, how would you represent 21/100ths? You're going to be using some longs and some cubes, right? How many longs and how many cubes is it going to take you to represent 21/100ths? I hope you would figure out for 21/100ths that it's going to take you, because I'm in this spot here now, the 2. So the 2 is dimes. I can think about it like that, or I can think about it as longs. So it's going to take me 2 longs and 1 cube. Right? And then how about 39/100ths over here? 39/100ths. So we've got the 3 in the first position. That's the dimes or the longs. So it would be 3 longs and 9 cubes. And we'd say that 39/100ths. All right. Hopefully you're in good shape here. So that being said, in your math journal, you have this page on page 91. So let's take a look at what they're looking for us to do here. So it says for number 1, write the fraction and equivalent decimal for each grid. So let's do that first one together. So the fraction, so I'm looking at now cubes, right? Cubes for this one because none of them are filled in all the way, so I don't have any longs. So I'm going to see there's normally 10 and there's 2 missing, so that's going to tell me that there's 8 there. So the fraction of that is 8 hundredths, right? Because I'm talking about the 100 of them there. I'm talking about the cube. So 8 hundredths, and the decimal 8 hundredths is written like this. You try those other two on that first line and see how you do. And then we'll move down and look at the next section here. Ooh. I guess I won't be doing that on this, will I? Well, if you take a look at that next one, it tells you to color the parts. All right, I'll just do a quick erase job right here so I can move it along for you. So color part of each grid to show the decimal given. So if I have to color it in and I want, let's see, 9 tenths, because that's in the tenths position now, right? Look at 4 and 5. You've got 9 tenths, and 5 you've got 9 hundredths. So for 9 tenths, if I'm coloring that in, see, I think I'll pick that pretty green. I'm going to color in 9 full longs, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All but one would be colored in, right? So you could do a really nice job coloring yours, and mine's probably going to be a little messier than yours for time's sake. Okay, hopefully you get why I would be doing that. You check out 5 and 6 then. And then the bottom one, color part of each grid and write the decimal represented. So you're going to get to, let's see, let's quick take that away. If I clear the ink on that one, I can move it along again. So you get to decide what you want to do and then fill it in. So have some fun with that. When you get it all done, then check the next slide for the correct answers. And here we go. So you can see what these are on the top. We do see the 8 hundredths and written 0.08, 8 hundredths. The 8 is in the pennies spot because it's hundredths. And then for the second one there, you see we have 72 hundredths because there are 7 dimes worth, or 7 longs filled out. That's this spot right here. And then we have 2 left over in like what we would call the pennies, right? Or the hundredth spot right here. So 72.72, 72 hundredths. And you've got lots of options of how you could have written this over here. You see the equivalents, 1/2, 5 tenths, or 50 hundredths. Any of those are correct. They're all right. Represented like this in a decimal, 0.5, 0.50. Okay? For the second row, you can see here coloring the parts, the 9 tenths versus the 9 hundredths versus the 46 hundredths. And of course, the bottom one, it's going to vary depending on what you picked. So we'll take a look at those when we're together. Okay, one other thing here. Just to summarize, I want to really make sure that you get this. So you should be able to answer these 5 questions. Do your best on these summary 5 questions here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here. Try and write those down. Make it pretty clear in your notebook so I can take a look at that when I'm going around to check your notebooks. And we will definitely talk about that in class. And then if you're up for a challenge, take a look at this right here. I'm curious to see if you can connect this to what we have been doing. So good luck with that. And I will see you in the lesson.